So yeah, just like Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil Original doesn't seem to be fairly robust on a rogues gallery or boss fights. Considering that we're now about 4 or 5 hours into the game and the second boss is Yawn. Again, the second time that we're fighting him right after the first time, except that we've just made a lot of progress, made a lot of puzzles happen, and now we're just in the library. Yawn's there for whatever reason. Somehow the web-snared room leads into here somehow because Spencer Mansion was built by a literal crazy person. I'm surprised that it was structurally sound once everything was said and done, but then again, I'm not an Umbrella executive, so what the hell do I know about construction of my personal house? Anyway, the Yawn boss fight is more of the same. It gets a bit more difficult because it decided to include a little more bullshit rather than the pillared room that we had fought him in the first time. We're in the library and there's just one bookcase that separates from the rest of the room that Yawn can work around. Honestly, if it were me, I would be avoiding this part of the room altogether, because it's so tightly packed and easily controlled by Yawn that it almost seems like a death trap not worth the bother, unless you need a quick turnaround on Yawn before he can realize what the hell just happened. Also, don't even bother going back upstairs. You technically can because the ladder is right there, but I wouldn't suggest it at all because it's really not worth it to try and fight him from a higher ground because he can instantaneously just arrive on the second floor, sometimes even before you can, which is really weird. So the only real option you have is to work around the main area. Thankfully, that is the one that has the most useful perspective and camera angle, because it's just a wide shot from the top of the room down to where Jill is standing, or Chris, if you decide to pick Chris, and you're almost allowed to work at your leisure. With how tough Yawn is in his final form, you are probably going to be taking a hit because this game has no dodge mechanic, and Yawn's hits can take up a wide amount of floor space that you really have no control over. But other than that, it's pretty much the same boss fight with less useful camera angles, and the perspective is constantly changing, which adds a little tiny bit of annoyance to the goings on. But once you finally get Yawn defeated, he knocks an important puzzle item out of the bookshelf by his dying face smashing technique, because apparently that book was just too far into the wall for Jill to get it by herself, even though it's a book in a library, which would assume that it's, easily grabbable by human hands, but whatever. Yawn was a good monster, even though it still makes no sense that Yawn is a name for a giant snake, and now he's officially dead. Finally giving us the tutorial victory and showing us that we are strong enough as a player with our shotguns and crazy tactics that we have survived the first part of the Spencer Mansion, and all we got out of it was a completely useless, hollowed out piece of lore nonsense. I wonder if the Spencer Mansion has equally tacky t-shirts in its gift shop.